Hello again. It's been a while since I've made a baking video. Most of mine recently have been on either festivals or Raspberry Pi computers. But I think it's time really that we did a little bit more baking. And I want to start today with just a very simple coffee cake. You know, the kind of thing you have visitors come to call, you've got no cakes to give them, they want their cup of tea, their cup of coffee, and a piece of coffee cake would be brilliant. So you say, just a minute, I'm going to nip out the room. So you nip out the room and 2 hours later you come back with this wonderful coffee cake. Your visitors may have been gone by then, but never mind, it will do for another time. So this is a simple coffee cake, and it's made not by the additive method of mixing, but everything is put in at once and it's mixed all at once. It's a light cake and it uses very simple ingredients. It takes a very little time to do, about 15 minutes to prepare, maybe 25 minutes to cook, and maybe another 15 minutes to decorate. So, you know, within an hour or so you can have a really edible coffee cake, but you have to allow for cooling time obviously before you decorate. So any more ado, let's look at the components and get on with our coffee cake.
So now we have all our ingredients assembled, ready to put together to make our coffee sponge or coffee cake. The first thing we need is self-raising flour, 225 grams of that, and the next thing we have to have is our caster sugar. This is ordinary plain caster sugar, 225 grams of that, and then some pre-softened salt-free butter, and it's important that it's nice and soft so that it mixes easily when we add it to the other ingredients. Then we come on to 1 teaspoonful of baking powder. That looks a lot more than that, but 1 teaspoonful is absolutely fine. And then 4 large eggs, and have those at room temperature if possible. We then come on to quite an important element of a coffee sponge or coffee cake, and that's the instant coffee. Instant coffee granules, please make it a good brand. There's nothing worse than making a coffee cake that tastes of not very nice coffee. So use a proprietary brand for your coffee granules. Then 2 times 8-inch baking tins. I've already lined these and I've greased the edges of them, and so 2 of those all pre-lined, and it's worth getting that done properly. Now we add all the components to the mixing bowl and mix it together. I'm going to speed this up a wee bit because the last thing you want to actually see is spend the whole video watching me mix sponge mix. So speeding it up. What we're looking for here is a nice consistency, nice and peaky, and a good colour. So that's getting there now, I think, looking quite good. So once that's completed, we're all ready to carry on with the next bit, which is to add the coffee flavouring. So let's get rid of the mixer and get on with adding the coffee. For the coffee, again, it's the 4 level teaspoonfuls of coffee granules. Put them into a slightly larger container or a small jug if you want, and add boiling water. I've already boiled this water and it's just off boiling. The hotter it is, the better, of course. So add 1 tablespoonful of boiling water and mix it well in. Make it a nice gloopy solution. Please don't be tempted to drink it, especially if you've already had a couple of espressos today. What you don't want to do is end up with caffeine overload. Okay, so we're ready for this to be added to the mixture and put it in. Wonderful, there it goes. And then we need our mixer again to just mix that well in. And again, I'm going to speed things up a bit here so that you'll see the color change. Now there it goes. After a minute or so, you'll see it change to this wonderful coffee color. It's a light coffee color. It's not over dark. It's not over too pale. It's just a wonderful coffee color. So when that's done, we'll be ready to actually add that to our baking tins. So let's get rid of the mixing bits and get ready to actually add it to our tins. While we're doing this, it's a good idea to preheat the oven. I set mine's a gas oven, so I set it to gas mark 4, 180 degrees C. If you have a fan oven or a different type of oven, then it's important that you get that temperature right. So the oven is nice and preheated, and I'm just adding all the mixture to the 2 baking tins. So that's all going in there now, and we're almost ready to put that into the oven to bake. So let's do that next.
My oven is now nicely preheated, so I'm going to open the oven and put each dish in the centre. 1, 2, make sure they're nice and centre, not too close to the edge. Shut it reasonably quickly to retain the heat. And now I'm going to set my cooking time for 20 minutes. It's roughly about 20 to 25 minutes. The secret is, of course, do not open the oven now until approximately the cooking time is complete. Okay, so we're now almost up to cooking time. So what I'm going to do is just do a little check to make sure that everything's going to be okay. That looks good to me. That looks good to me as well. It's clean. So I'm just going to wait. Let's see. We've got 1 minute to go. So we may as well wait for that 1 minute. I'll get some cooling rack ready. Okay, there we go. That's the time. So I'll stop the buzzer now and open the oven. Turn the oven off, actually. I'm going to open the oven and take the cake out. I'm going to have that looks quite good. I'm going to have a quick listen. It's not singing at all, so that one can go up there. And this one, okay, sounds good. It can go up there. And that's it. We have 2 coffee cake halves all ready to cool now and to ice.
So while the coffee cake halves are cooling, we can carry on and prepare our butter icing, our coffee butter icing. For that we need 350 grams or 12 ounces of icing sugar. We need some pre-softened butter. I think I may have overdid it a bit there, but 170 grams or 6 ounces of soft butter. And we're back to the coffee again. We need some good quality coffee, 4 teaspoonfuls of instant coffee granules, and we also need some boiling water. Now this bit gets a bit messy, so we pour the pre-softened butter into the icing sugar, and what I prefer to do before I actually put the mixer in is to pre-mix it with a spoon. Otherwise you get icing dust flying everywhere and everything ends up with a fine coating of dust. So pre-mix it a little bit with a spoon until you've incorporated the icing sugar to some extent into the actual pre-softened butter. Once that's done, you can then start the messy bit, which is using the mixer. And in we go with the mixer, and I'm going to speed this up a bit again because it takes a little while to do, and it's particularly noisy. There we go, it's nice and solid, there's peaks in it. And now we can add the boiling water to the coffee, all ready to put into the butter icing in order to make it coffee butter icing. So let's do that now. This time I'm using a kettle. So 1 tablespoonful of boiling water right into the coffee granules and mix that fairly quickly so that they're completely dissolved. We don't want lumps in the butter icing. So dissolve that in with boiling water. That shouldn't be a problem. Once you've got that all mixed, we can just pour it directly into the butter icing. So let's get ready to do that now. Mix it, mix it, mix it. Make sure it's really a nice gloopy mix of coffee, and then pour it into the butter icing and mix again. I'm going to speed this up a bit so that there we go. So we get this lovely coffee cover butter icing. Don't be tempted to eat any at this point. Okay, so that's done, and now we're ready to apply the coffee butter icing to our sponge. So the sponge halves have been cooling, so now we have to select one, which one we're going to have. For the bottom one, I think I'll choose this one. Turn it over and put it onto a plate, and then start applying the coffee butter icing in a liberal way. Put plenty on. This cake is delicious. We want to make it look delicious, so put plenty on here, and I'm just smoothing it out now and getting it nice and even. You can use this as well if you have any bumps or hills in the cake itself. This is an ideal time to use the butter icing to level it out. A bit of a cheat, I know, but there we go. Now we come to the final bit, and that's putting the top part of the sponge cake on and preparing to add the final layer of coffee buttercream to the top. Again, it's looking quite good now, nice and level, but we want to make it look even better by just putting this last layer of icing on, and again spread it around, make it look really thick. It's this bit that gives the cake its final finish. We need to tidy up the edges in a minute because it looks a bit scruffy at the moment, but once that's done, I'm using a palette knife to smooth it down, and then just to clean the edges up. Make sure you wipe your palette knife off each time you've done it, and once that's done, we're getting there. After that, we need to decorate, and I just use a simple decoration. You can use anything you want. You can make it elaborate, you make it simple, you can just do swirls, but I just like to do something pretty simple just to make it look attractive, and that's it being finished off now. So there it is. Tidy up the edges one more time, and that's our coffee cake, all ready to take through to our friends who may or may not be waiting for us in the other room. But no matter if they've gone, I've got a lovely coffee cake. So there it is, and I am quite pleased with that, and it didn't take a terribly long time to do.
Well, that's it, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the coffee cakes that you make.